Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we return to talking about our least favorite true TV show, Adam Ruins Everything. This time Adam and co are going after Amazon. Interestingly enough, one of my favorite shows, South Park, just finished up a 2-episode season finale arc about Amazon too, which we also of course covered on the show. So it's pretty funny to see Adam is going after Amazon as well, at about exactly the same time too. Unfortunately though, as we all know, Adam Ruins Everything always has to lean towards liberal and leftist ideologies, which of course is very much unlike South Park, who plays it pretty much middle of the road, and not really in a fence-sitting middle of the road, never take a stance way, but actually South Park likes to lampoon and mock everything, both sides. But Adam, on the other hand, he actually pretends to be a fence-sitter, but we all know really he's a closeted leftist, which probably isn't the only thing he's in the closet about. And also, another thing I really don't like about Adam's take here is he heavily sides against Amazon and against other big tech companies eventually later in the episode. Yeah, unlike South Park, who would not only make fun of Amazon's unfair business practices, but also they would razz the consumers and their greedy materialistic tendencies too. But Adam doesn't do that at all. Just like with his left-wing politics, Adam's terrible arguments are just as one-sided, as you'll soon see. Basically, Adam is like me or South Park. He's commentating on modern things like Amazon, except Adam Ruins Everything, they're the liberal, douchey, condescending version that's much more manipulative, underhanded, and one-sided. Now, with all that said, let's go ahead and jump into Adam's new anti-tech, anti-capitalist episode, shall we? It's called Adam Ruins Big Tech, and things start off with Adam getting a knockoff version of an Amazon Alexa. You know, those talking digital assistant thingies that tell you the weather and play Spotify with voice commands. Well, this gift of a fake Alexa is what spurs Adam into ruining his first topic, Amazon. Now, before we get into Adam's pitch, let me be clear about my own stance first. I may be defending Amazon and other tech companies today, but they of course all have their issues too. I just still see their problems as fixable and manageable, while Adam seems to be overblowing them to the point where he eventually suggests these companies all be broken up and split into separate entities, which we'll get into eventually. And in addition, many of Adam's gripes with these companies can be traced back to the consumers themselves and their own vanity, greed, or other failings, but Adam doesn't have the brain capacity or the depth of character it takes to identify these nuances. No, when Adam ruins Amazon, he just appears to blame everything on them, thus pretty much pandering to the consumers and his viewers as well. And sure, we all pander to our viewers once in a while in entertainment, but Adam does this excessively and to the point of being condescending. He'll basically say Amazon is bad, 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 without acknowledging that consumers and their habits can be just as bad too, and they're enabling Amazon, which is equally as damaging to our society, if you ask me.
We all know that Amazon is a convenient way to shop online, but their superior service and take no prisoners business strategy has given them a new kind of monopoly over online shopping, and that is bad for consumers in the long run.
Basically, Adam's take here is that Amazon is just too big. It's too big for its own good, and it couldn't have done this fairly. And perhaps he's right, but I really don't see any proof of real wrongdoings in this episode of his show. Adam doesn't even bother mentioning the poor working conditions and abuse of illegal immigrant labor that Amazon has been guilty of. Gee, I wonder why. Because leftists love illegals. All Adam really talks about is how Amazon took over some diapers website, and then he scoffs when Amazon went on to make its own versions of products which people buy and enjoy, apparently. Obviously, the Amazon Basics line is highly successful, but according to Adam, anything successful is bad and got there by doing something shady. And the vibe I'm really getting from this episode right away is a sort of message of we're anti-establishment. You know, kind of like those old school liberals who were hippies and anti-war protesters in the 70s. Well, modern day leftists love going against anything big or successful in the same kinds of ways, just without really good causes. It's like their way to be different or stand out or something. They're basically like modern day goth kids from a high school. What we used to call this was being an anti-conformist or a non-conformist, and it really doesn't make Adam look as cool as he thinks it does. The bottom line here is, Amazon and these other tech companies that come up later, they haven't done anything illegal or against the law. Not yet. At least nothing that bad that they should be broken up as companies. They haven't broken any rules, but Adam wants to punish them anyway just because they're so big and popular and successful. And to anyone paying attention, this is obviously anti-capitalist and anti-free market and trade. It's also going to discourage others from running companies that become too big in the future in America. If you know that the liberals in government will break your company up and regulate you to death if you become too big, why even try and make a big company like that in the United States anyway? Potential business makers would either not make the company, or if they do, they definitely wouldn't make it here. And this would be a big deterrent for future businesses in America, which would also hurt our jobs market and our gross domestic product. All because Amazon is doing a great job at providing customers with what they want. Sure, they bought out diapers.com or something many years ago, but is that really worth what Adam is recommending we do? Break up the company and start charging more or something? Because I don't think so. Next, Adam goes on to detail Amazon's big and, quote, unbeatable shipping infrastructure. As if that's a bad thing? I don't get what his complaint is here. Amazon is unbeatable because they're the best at what they do. That's not a problem. This is a good thing. People are getting the products they want for really great prices, but I guess Adam wants to pay more for shittier products and services. Doesn't really matter to him and his liberal cohorts producing this show in Hollywood. They're overpaid LA douchebags who can afford to shop at hipster flea markets and Whole Foods and other rich people places. But instead of being content with their own lifestyles and letting us live our own way too, well, Adam chooses to push his liberal bullshit onto the rest of us. And that's where I really take umbrage. The next segment of the show moves on to more general complaints about technology. Pretty boring stuff about how companies like Apple license their software for their phones. Not much to report here, just the same anti-tech, pro-communist messaging. I do think this is a good time to point out how terrible this show is overall. Its production, the writing, the filming, the presentation, and most notably, it has one of the worst casts on TV, starting right from the top with Adam Conover, who we already know is annoying, flamboyant, snobby, and over the top, but also the supporting actors he brings in with him are especially terrible in this one. They're also obnoxiously multicultural and seemingly over-diverse to the point of feeling forced, and again, like they're pandering. First, there's this weird-looking black chick who plays a person version of their discount Amazon Alexa. Besides being hard to look at, her performance is just cringy as hell too. And I really just don't like this whole Adam talks to a person pretending to be an Amazon thing setup. Pretty lame. Next, there's this weird bald guy who plays Amazon himself. He acts like an over-the-top asshole the whole show too, so it's no wonder he's played by a white guy. Speaking of straight white male characters in liberal shows, the second segment of this episode has a pretty over-the-top redneck character, who I would call borderline offensive. Sure, there are plenty of hillbillies out there like this, I've seen them myself, but seeing this come from a show like Adam Ruins Everything makes it feel pretty stereotypical and demeaning, and it wouldn't normally bother me much either, but you know that Adam wouldn't allow this in the inverse. I would bet my life savings that they would not be cool with a character like this being made about a black or brown person, which makes Adam's inclusion of this redneck character rather questionable and very hypocritical. It's also the only other white guy here, and it's another negative portrayal, just saying. And it's also worth noting that none of these actors are very funny at all, not in the slightest, and that includes Adam himself. In fact, here's some free advice for the show, if they happen to be watching my reviews of them again. It would do you guys much better if you just stopped trying to be funny altogether, and stop pretending you're not leftist too, for that matter. Next, let's talk about the other guests they have on the show. Adam not only employs horrible actors who belong in the background, he also hires supposed experts to come onto the show and speak from authority about topics, to make people think they have smart people backing them up. These other guests or experts usually come from a somewhat related field to the episode's subject, but in the end, they always say what Adam and his liberal writers want to hear. One such guest that pops up later is called Kit Walsh, and it's a senior staff attorney for the Electronic Frontier Foundation, whatever that means. I don't see how all of that makes him an expert on this stuff, but it sure does show how this show presents these kinds of guests as experts, even though they really might not be, but I guess most people just take their word for it, or they hope they do. And also, of course, Kit Walsh here is clearly a dude. I mean, sure, he's got long hair, lipstick, and those problematic glasses on, but ooh, that voice. That voice ain't very feminine at all. Nothing wrong with this either. Being trans is fine, of course, but I find it funny that Adam chooses Kit as his guest and expert, especially considering all the SJW pandering we've already seen today. Oh, and Kit here is not only wearing those feminist glasses unironically, but also, he unironically asks for allies, which is pretty much the most social justice warrior thing anyone could do.
Device makers want us to live in a world where they have more control over our devices than we do. Now, it's not hopeless. EFF and our allies have already won some important legal victories, but there's still a ways to go before you'll be able to repair and trust in all of your devices.
Now for the final section of Adam Ruins Big Tech. In the end here, Adam really starts going after all of Silicon Valley as a whole. Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google, all the big players are on the chopping block today, according to Adam Ruins Everything. The thing is though, like I said before, there's really no problems here. At least not provable, demonstratable problems that Adam presents. Really, it just just becomes pretty clear that Adam thinks big tech owes us something. He even says it himself. Adam thinks big tech owes us something more than the already useful services they provide. Adam talks about some of the government aid these companies received years ago too, saying this means us, the taxpayers, deserve a share of profits or something. Pretty ridiculous, and it just goes to show that Adam doesn't appreciate what we already have. Big tech provides all kinds of real benefits already, and many of them do it virtually for free. I only lightly use social media, but I heavily use Google products like their search and email. And guess what? I've never paid a dime for any of it, and I've been using these services for over a decade. Whether it's helping me search for info or photographs to make my videos about, or just to message a friend on Facebook or something. There are a slew of practical, real-world uses for these products, but for some reason Adam is ignoring all of them in order to make his anti-big tech point stronger. Pretty dishonest if you ask me. Next, Adam makes a pretty big assumption, which really just shows how he assumes his own bias is true for everyone. As Adam goes on, he comes to the conclusion that we can't quit these big tech companies at all. They're so evolved and ingrained in our lives, there's no getting away from them. And I have to say, this is certainly false. It's actually pretty easy to quit things like Facebook, delete your account in the app, and maybe get another phone besides a smartphone. Or say you don't want to shop at Amazon, just go to the local Walmart or Target. Now, I know maybe an overprivileged LA hipster like Adam might not be able to give up his Apple Music account, but believe me, it is possible. Saying people can't quit social media might make sense at first, but it's really not true at all. Only needy, addicted, socially obsessed losers would think it's not possible. And I also assume Adam is saying it's not possible in order to shore up his case against big tech too. This brings us to the final solution of Adam's video. Break up all the big tech companies. He wants to split up Facebook, Amazon, YouTube, and Twitter because they got too big, successful, and popular. Doesn't really get much more non-conformist than this. And this is also very much un-American too. This country was founded on its capitalistic, free market principles, and what Adam's suggesting shits all over that. Might as well say the government should take over all these businesses. Let's go full-blown socialist, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. But not really, never. And what's even funnier is, Adam even addresses this liberal ending of his show in a little interview he does at the end of the episode with one of their experts.
Now, a lot of people will cast arguments like this about breaking up corporations or enforcing regulations as being very, quote, left-wing, but you really identify as a capitalist, you're a startup founder. I mean, honestly, I'll tell you, you look the part. What is the...
So it seems like even Adam saw this coming a bit. He knew this video would make him look like an anti-capitalist leftist, but they still went through with it anyway. And that, my friends, is utter bullshit. In the end, I think one way I can sum up Adam's concerns here is with this phrase: a fool and his money are soon parted. You see, as I said earlier, Adam gives too much credit to the companies and almost no credit at all to the people, their consumers. It's a person's own fault if they fall for suggested ads on Amazon and lose all their money by spending it on crap. And it's also the consumer's fault if a company like Facebook has too much of your personal information. You gotta keep an eye on that shit yourself. So a lot more of this issue has to do with holding the people responsible for their own actions, something which Adam is too dishonest to admit himself since he's too busy pandering to the liberal masses, a bunch of idiots. Speaking of which, this attack on big tech is also a little strange too since, Silicon Valley is in California and it's overwhelmingly left-wing as well. Truly seems like the liberals are devouring their own today on True TV, and I'm glad I could be here to walk you all through it. It was fun. What do you guys think? Are the big tech companies getting too big? Should we split them up even if they're not breaking any antitrust laws? And is Adam Conover being anti-capitalist and un-American? And what do you think about Amazon.com yourself? Do you shop there? Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. We'll see y'all next time.